Welcome to Crossroads. It appears that relations between the Chinese Communist Party and North Korea are running into some problems. Now, this started because Russia and North Korea have begun developing closer ties, and the Chinese Communist Party, oddly, seemed concerned about this. Now, they're worried this is going to impact their own interests. South China Morning Post said this. They said China is willing to deepen cooperation and strategic communication with North Korea, Chinese President Xi Jinping said on Monday, amid signs of frayed ties in recent months between the two neighbors. It notes in a congratulatory message to leader Kim Jong-un on the 76th anniversary of North Korea's founding, Xi said the Workers' Party of Korea, again the one in charge there, and united North Koreans and promoted vigorous development of the country. And notes that Xi said Kim had led North Korea to achievements in construction and development. He also expressed the hope that Pyongyang would continue to win new and greater victories in the journey of promoting the cause of Korean-style socialism. Now, but it notes that ties between China and North Korea have been having some problems. It says at the same time that North Korea has been stepping up its diplomatic and military efforts with Russia, including the June visit of Russian President Vladimir Putin, his first to Pyongyang in 24 years, Putin vowed to deepen trade and security ties and to support Pyongyang against the United States, while North Korean state news agency KCNA called the relationship a strong strategic fortress for preserving international justice, peace and security, and an engine for accelerating the building of a multipolar world. And again, the agenda for the multipolar world order means overturning what they call the unipolar world order, which is the United States. Now, this is very like this whole development, a continuation of Chinese Communist Party concerns that North Korea is getting closer with Russia. And it seems that part of this concern for the CCP, it wants Russia and North Korea to both be dependent on China. And if they make friends with each other and work closer with each other, well, that means that they don't need China as much. Look, it's a simple question otherwise. Why would a normal country care if its two main allies became close allies with each other as well? Normally, you'd think that's just deepening of relations. If Australia and Japan get close to each other, does America criticize them? If Germany and UK get closer together, does America criticize them? So why is China, the Chinese Communist Party, criticizing Russia and North Korea for getting closer with each other? Well, that's one of the key questions here. Now, this actually began back in June. Russian President Vladimir Putin went to North Korea and he met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Now, Putin was greeted on the tarmac by Kim, and he was flanked by a military guard of honor. Now, BBC said this on June 18th. It said ties between the two pariah states have increased in recent years, especially since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And it said North Korea needs help with space technology after its recent failure to put a second spy satellite into orbit, which they also need for ballistic missiles, by the way, as well as food, fuel, and foreign currency, one of the big ones there. And it's that Russia faces a continued shortage of weapons in its war in Ukraine. And note that ahead of his arrival, Mr. Putin praised Mr. Kim for firmly supporting Moscow's war in Ukraine. And notes that in a letter published in North Korean state media, Vladimir Putin promised to build trade and security systems with Pyongyang that are not controlled by the West. And notes as well that Russian President Vladimir Putin also vowed support for Pyongyang's efforts to defend its interests despite what he called U.S. pressure, blackmail, and military threats, and the article printed in, again, one of North Korea's main mouthpieces. He said the two countries also would continue to resolutely oppose what he described as Western ambitions to hinder the establishment of a multipolarized world order based on what he calls mutual respect for justice. And again, that's one of the key buzzwords you're going to be hearing a lot now, multipolar world order, because that's the agenda both of Russia and of the Chinese Communist Party. Again, the creation of a shared global governance is what you can think of it as. The overturning of the Pax Americana, the peace under America, and the U.S. system of kind of, global standards of human rights. overturning that and also overturning the U.S. global peacekeeping operations and establishing instead different regional powers. China, Russia, Europe, the U.S. is just one of many. And again, shared global governance based on equity, but of course also led by what they call the China model, a system of state socialism. Now, the two countries formed a strategic pact, again, Russia and North Korea, saying both will use all means available for military assistance in the event of a war. It also included agreements on foreign policy and on trade. So this was pretty much everything. It was government agreements, it was trade agreements, and most importantly, it was a military agreement. And to an extent, even what seemed to be a defense pact, where they vowed to support each other if one country goes to war. Now, North Korea said that this amounted to an alliance. Russia didn't go that far as to use that phrase. But for China, the Chinese Communist Party, well, they're the ones who want the alliance. And they don't want Russia to have that with their close ally. Now, the meeting was met with criticisms from the West, as you would expect, as it meant that North Korea would begin helping supply Russia with weapons for its war in Ukraine. And this is important. Some of the world's largest arms dealers are North Korean. It's not well known, but two of the largest arms dealers in the Middle East, for example, including Iran, are North Korean arms dealers. Now, they tend to sell older generation weapons, think like, Soviet-era type weapons, but that includes small arms, it even includes some missile technology. And Russia, which in its war in Ukraine has been running short of ammunition and guns, well, they need that. Notably, they're even arming troops with like old Soviet-era weapons, some going back to even World War II. And so they need those guns, even if they're old, even if they're not the best, but they need cheap and large amounts of them, and North Korea is the gateway to get that, and they got it. Now, the deal notably also caused criticism, though, from South Korea. And South Korea is also one of the world's largest arms dealers, but working again mostly with free world countries. Them getting involved with this would create two counterbalances of one country, North Korea, supplying guns to Iran and Russia and other countries, while South Korea, if it gets involved, is even saying it may begin supplying weapons on the other side of the conflict to Ukraine. And they have much better guns and more highly developed ones and modern technology. Now, they haven't gone so far as to actually do this yet, but they said that they might. The Chinese Communist Party, when South Korea said that, the CCP issued a warning, stating that doing so would put South Korea in Russia's nuclear crosshairs. A very strange threat from the Chinese Communist Party, given the fact that it works close with Russia in its war, and it was threatening South Korea by proxy while claiming they weren't the ones doing it. Now, this also, notably though, brought North Korea and South Korea further into the picture of these growing global conflicts. Now, National Security Journal said this in August. They said, indeed, very few would have expected North and South Korea, half a world away and without direct interest in the conflict, again, Russia, Ukraine, to have taken on such a prominent role in the war. Now, of course, South Korea has not fully committed to this yet, and the technicality of it here is they're technically still at war with North Korea. And so North Korea getting involved in that conflict, and again, making a defensive agreement with Russia, that again, if North Korea goes to war, Russia gets involved, that means South Korea for them. Now, South Korea, because of pressure from China, they haven't really gone fully in on this yet, but the country is on its way notably to becoming the fourth largest arms exporter by around 2027, the current track it's on. It already has arms deals with the Philippines, Poland, and notably other countries around this whole growing conflict. And so they're positioned in an interesting way, including working with the U.S. One of the largest military bases of the United States notably is located in South Korea. They're positioning themselves, interestingly, to become one of the major players in this developing global conflict. But the Chinese Communist Party is one of the key factors with all of this. The CCP came out with a seemingly odd stance of being unhappy with the warming ties of Russia and North Korea.